All right, everyone, I'd like to welcome you to our January Coffee with Keith. We have a really special presentation tonight. We are talking about mental health for your teen and some tips and strategies of what you can do to support your teen during this crazy pandemic time and remote teaching and learning. We know that it's been a struggle, it's been a challenge for all of us, and we want to make sure that we're providing the correct level of support and resources to our students and provide tips for parents on managing and helping out their teen. So today we have Miss Igaz, who's going to present first, who is our Swedish mental health counselor, who works with a lot of Skyline students on a regular basis. We also have our Skyline counseling team, who's going to present on kind of the Skyline specific supports and resources that we have. And to tell you the truth, we have had a few, I have had a few internet instability issues, so we've kind of had to scramble here, and we went away from how we were going to do it. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Miss Igaz right now, and she is actually going to share her screen, and she has some slides that she wants to walk you through, as well as a short little video. So Summer, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, and thank you so much, Keith. I'm gonna work on my tech here and get this shared and probably change my picture over everybody, and then I'll come back live here shortly. All right, so thanks again for having me here. I hope this short presentation can offer a bit of insight into how parents and students can stay active in their mental health. I know that this information might seem pretty simplistic, but it's, I think that's the point. With all the stress and uncertainty, it's really easy to forget the basics, let alone adhere to them. Also, this is kind of a condensed version of the presentation provided to the district by my team in November, so it might look familiar to some of you, and also be on the lookout for a date of an encore presentation of the same one. I just want to do a quick intro of myself, since some of you may not know about my position. I'm part of the team of, excuse me, school-based mental health counselors in the Igaz School District from Swedish. I'm a licensed independent clinical social worker at Swedish since 2006, and this is my 6th year at Skyline. We help students with stress, anxiety, depression, grief and loss, really whatever a student is identifying as impacting them, and then help to develop strategies for coping or addressing their goals. We do this because research shows that students whose mental health needs are met do better in school. I'm gonna just offer a quick, this is a really quick video that might kind of normalizes a bit about what students are experiencing during COVID. And let me see if this is a really fast ad, I promise. Skip ad. I hear that you cannot see it. Is that right?
So Summer, you might have to stop screen sharing this and then screen share.
I'm going to screen share the other.
Yep.
Here we go. Okay, I'm going to stop this. Give me a second, guys. Thanks for the tech patience.
Again, this is 100% my because I had everything on one PowerPoint and everything ready to go, and my internet was cutting out. So we quickly pivoted to having each presenter. So that's completely my fault, but it looks like Summer's got it here. You clicked the wrong screen again.
Did I click the wrong one? I'm so sorry, everyone. Stop share. I actually didn't have it up on YouTube. Oh, geez.
Hey, and actually, my internet's been pretty Good right now.
Can you try and do the video on your end, Keith?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then I'll take it back.
Can you hear that, everyone?
Yes.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
I think that in some ways I'm like less optimistic considering how it's been progressing.
Quarantine has kind of been like an endless void of nothingness, doing nothing all the time.
I'm definitely doing better now than I was in the beginning of quarantine. I just felt really helpless about the whole situation, and I was upset and irritable all the time.
Earlier in quarantine, I had some pretty scary mental health stuff go down, and so that was pretty frightening, and now it's pretty much under control.
I think it's starting to feel more real now.
It's starting to feel normal, which is completely unbelievable because this is not a normal situation at all.
Every day is just blurring together because it's just non-stop, the same routine. And I just feel kind of trapped and kind of stressed.
It's insane that this is what's happening, that this is just like where the world is at.
I've just been pretty sad, and I've been really lazy, and I've been pretty bored.
I'm doing less creative things than I was doing at the beginning. Because at the beginning I was sort of like, okay, I'm set, let's go. I'm ready to do these things to make me feel better. But now I'm kind of just like chilling.
It's very hard to like stay motivated, and it's incredibly easy to just like get behind and to get distracted.
I'm getting way more work than I was, and my motivation is just at zero to do any of it.
Everything's past fail, so no incentive to work really hard doing it.
I've been getting super behind on my schoolwork because I can't really focus in Zoom. Then I kind of feel like school isn't real, or it doesn't count. So I get super behind on all my homework, and then I have so many assignments to do, and I'd just be super stressed out about it.
The hardest part about quarantine is not being able to see my friends, because I really haven't seen them in a month and a half, which is really just crazy.
Weekends are getting very lonely.
I miss my friends a lot, but I found new ways to communicate with them, and I started talking to them more often.
Self-isolation, I feel like I'm going crazy inside of my own house.
The thing that scares me most right now is if someone in my family gets it.
70% of the population is going to be infected. That could be any one of my family members tomorrow or today.
A couple of my neighbors actually got corona.
A friend of mine's father actually passed away.
My grandparents got coronavirus. My grandma loves to come over. She loves to garden in our yard and help out whenever she can. But I'm so worried for her. If somebody you love gets it, it's just really scary at first.
Something that scares me right now is how we're gonna return back to normal life after quarantine.
I just want to know if it's gonna get better or if it's gonna get worse, or how long this is gonna last for, if I'm even gonna have school next year.
So just make sure that's cleared out, Mr. Hennig. It says I can't share while another person is sharing.
You should be able to now.
All right. So the really interesting thing about that is that that video was in 2020, and here we are, from May 2020, and here we are in, where are we? January 2021. And I think it's pretty evident that this has gotten more intense for teens. So we know the rates of suicide have increased in communities across the nation, as well as just the need for mental health services. Comic relief there. So getting more into just ways to be able to support your teen during remote learning, during COVID, during all of this stress. These are a few things to focus on. I'll go into more detail in the next slide. But remember that you as parents serve as coping models. Kids look to parents to see how resilient and capable of coping they are. Helping kids manage their emotions begins by validating those emotions and providing an environment that feels safe to express them. So taking care of your own needs, being flexible and supportive, being an active listener, encouraging some structure, letting your team take breaks from schoolwork, regardless of how much work there is to do. And I'll definitely talk about a little bit more about that at the end. And then again, validating their experience with remote learning, and not just remote learning, but also with the sense of isolation that students are still feeling. The stress is increasing. We're just still missing a lot of milestones. So move on to the next one here. So how can we be more thoughtful about what we're giving our attention to? This is sort of this idea of intentionally putting our attention into our families right now. So keeping the schedule, creating predictability, not rigidity, being clear with structure and expectations and follow through. This could be started simply by setting up your own predictability of when you might be giving yourself attention to work, yourself, your kids. This provides a lot of safety and security in uncertain times. It's to be noted that parents' attention is one of the most powerful resources. So it's super valuable for managing behavior, reinforcing positive behaviors like taking breaks and going outside versus negative behaviors like overstudying or doing work for long periods of time can be really helpful. Scheduling for things like meals and sleep and school time, not getting too ambitious, making sure that they've got time to do their allotted work, but obviously this varies for multiple kids in the household. And again, while it sounds like overly simplistic, adequate sleep and exercise are imperative parts of the routine to help manage our mood, but do what works for you and let your kid do what works for them. Invite them to join you. Even if they say no, this models consistency and predictability. And those things, they actually do get noticed. More comic relief here. Couldn't find one with a Peloton. I know that's the big thing now. So finally, this is just this idea of checking in with your teen about more than just school. And I will tell you that I would say the majority of students and families that I'm working with right now, this is kind of the objective. It may be controversial to say in the academic realm, but I'm finding this piece a lot more important than checking in with the academics piece, because they're all definitely connected. Once we spiral with our mental health, it can be really hard to catch up with anything else. We can catch up with academics and special resources later, which of course our counselors will talk about. But if we're not kind of looking at the needs of the emotional piece, that's going to be a really big struggle. So one big thing is this idea of scheduling time to talk about school, and that's definitely going to look different for every family. The natural tendency, especially when everybody's living together and on top of each other most days, is, and kids are in front of their screens for so long, it's how's this grade and what's going on with school, and that just doesn't work for every kid, and not every kid needs it. So figuring out together the frequency of what that might look like. And outside of that time, trying not to talk about school. That's the way to hold each other accountable. What is your kid planning on doing the next week or the next day or whatever you've decided? And how can you hold back from kind of continuing to ask them? All of these things that were built into a school day are now often parents' job to not completely facilitate, but just to help to provide balance. The socializing is, not there. We're not seeing our friends, staff members every day, just seeing family and then whoever is in our bubble. But so making sure that students are socializing in a way that feels safe to you guys. And definitely the moving your body part. We're losing this by just simply getting out of bed and walking to the car or bus, because we just have to roll out and enough to maybe put our cameras on. So this movement piece is a pretty big deal considering how much sedentary time we're having right now. During the regular check-ins with school, you can ask about what's coming up for the week, how they're feeling about things. That's when you can ask about grades and teachers. Certainly you all know that if you're going to ask a general question, you're going to get a general answer or a fine answer. So just be really specific in your questioning. It shows the kids that you care, and, you know, it shows parents, you know, gives them the opportunity to assess the big picture and set expectations and, you know, utilize other resources that we might need. But ultimately, this is really also very much about cutting yourself and each other slack, because it's really super hard right now at the very end of this. Online learning is challenging for many. Mental health is challenging for many. Isolation, health, regular health, all of these changes. So, you know, being intentional about creating time and space to recharge and decompress. And again, this is about modeling this too, about being thoughtful about how you're treating yourself and being realistic. This is another thing that I work on with all of my students, is what feels challenging, but not so challenging that it doesn't feel realistic, because, you know, folks are overwhelmed as it is right now. So, you know, remembering that cutting yourself slack and being kind with yourself is just going to offer a little bit more bandwidth when you got to take care of other really important business. So that said, I think that this will be available on, however this is being recorded. So these are some websites that you can look at. Also some apps that, you know, a lot of kids are not getting that quiet time. I think everybody's kind of heard a lot of these. Virtual Hope Box is kind of a new one. It's very simplistic, but just something for kind of distraction. And then these are certainly kind of the main lines here. If you, or I'm going to turn my video on here, you know, if you are worried about your students' mental health, feel free to email me directly. My information's up on the Skyline page. For questions about what my services are, availability, or certainly about getting resources for finding counseling out in the community, or, you know, just if I don't have the answer, I have a lot of great colleagues who can help point us in the right direction. So do not hesitate to email me if you have questions about any of that. So with that, I will transition to the next one. Thanks.
All right. Well, hey, Summer, thank you very much for presenting that information. Fantastic support and resources you're providing for our students. And just so everyone knows, yes, we are recording this presentation, but I will also be placing the actual PowerPoint onto our webpage. So you'll be able to get into that PowerPoint and click those little resource buttons, which should be links to certain apps. And I know Summer, as a father of a 9th grader and a 7th grader, one thing that I took away from your presentation is the asking specific questions about school or about life. And I know that I fall into that trap of coming home from work, and I go to Skyline just about every day, but a lot of times I come home and, hey boys, how was school? Fine. Did you work hard? Yes. Do you have any homework? No. And I know that that's something that I need to change about my interaction with my kids, is just making sure that I'm asking those specific questions, because honestly, when I do, they usually have some really thoughtful answers and are really talk more than 1 or 2 words in response. So I'm going to try to become more consistent in asking specific questions. So thank you for that. Again, if you have questions for Summer or our counselors, please write them down, and at the end you'll have an opportunity to ask them. So now I'm going to turn it over to who am I turning it over to first? Miss Megan, how are you doing? You can go ahead and share your screen, and I will turn it over to Miss Latke, who is going to start out with our school-based counselor presentation.
Awesome, thank you, Keith. All right, we will go ahead and get started. Everyone see okay? Great. So we work very closely with Summer in the counseling office at Skyline. Her office is actually right down the hall when we're in person. So we have a close connection with the Swedish mental health as well at Skyline, but we'd also like to share what supports we have at Skyline from a school counseling perspective as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our team, and we'll each talk about different supports we have at Skyline. So we'll start with Tiffany first.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Stevens and I work with students whose last names start with A through COA.
Hi there, I'm Todd Caffey. It's an honor to be here. I work with students last name COB through HES.
And I'm Megan Ladkey. I work with students with last names HET through LOP.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Anderson, and I serve students whose last names are LOQ through PLD.
Hello, I'm Deb Walters, and I work with students with last names PLE through STR. Welcome.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Flemmer. I have the privilege of working with students whose last name starts STS through Z.
All right, we would love to get started by giving a very brief overview of the job of a school-based school counselor. And so I know one of the most frequently asked questions I receive is, I don't know if you were the right person to talk to about this. And usually I am a good person to talk to because, as you can see, we talk about a lot of different things with your students. So that would be social, emotional well-being. We also support your students with their academic needs, as well as post-secondary planning. And that can look different at different stages of their high school career. What I love about this visual that Ms. Ladkey made for us is that they're overlapping, and very frequently conversations we have with students will touch more than one of these very broad categories. So Ms. Flemmer is going to talk a little bit more about some specific things we do within these categories.
So things are very busy in our counseling center right now, even though the counseling center is now, in our kitchens and living rooms. But this just kind of gives you a glimpse into some of the things that we're working on right now. We have obviously just changed into a new semester, and with that brings lots of talks about not only next semester, but even next year and beyond. It works with kiddos working on, okay, last semester, how did things go? How do we want things to be different? What are we celebrating? We're starting up graduation planning already, if you can believe it. We're even talking about courses for next year. There's a lot of things that we have to have kind of long-term thinking on, as well as short-term thinking. We're definitely doing a lot of conversations with students about different programs like WANIC and Running Start and all these cool things that they're getting really excited about. We're working a lot with families one-on-one, especially with just crisis response, and kind of in those three different areas that Ms. Anderson was talking about. So whether it be the social emotional piece, whether it's academics, whether it's post-high school planning, we see a lot of students that are just kind of starting to think about those things, and then some students that feel like they're really in a crisis mode of we need to figure this out now. So honestly, out of all the things we're doing, it's just meeting our students where they're at. Things look so different this year. So our biggest goal is to just make sure that students know how to get a hold of us, and that yes, we're here, and just that we're here to support in whatever way we can. And next, we are going to talk about some of those specific supports in those three areas.
Hi everyone, I'm going to touch on pretty briefly about some of the academic supports that we offer for students. Ms. Flemmer gave a wonderful kind of variety of those examples. As counselors, we work connecting with students for various tutoring opportunities, such as our Igaz Schools Foundation tutoring with Skyline teachers and our National Honor Society peer tutoring. We work to connect students with their teachers during their flex time and teacher-student support time offerings that are built into the day. Additionally, we work really closely with our graduation specialist, Matthew Taylor. He's a great resource for students who maybe need a little bit more support and staying on track towards graduation. Additionally, we work on teams to develop Section 504 plans and provide input for individualized education programs, or IEPs, to ensure that students have access to the necessary accommodations and or modifications for them to access their education in the classroom. And finally, I shouldn't say finally, kind of the last point I'll touch on is we counsel students with course selection. So presenting them with opportunities for academic support like guided studies, kind of built into their school day as well.
Okay, helping students prepare for post-high school options is one of the key roles that Skyline counselors have. Beginning in 9th and 10th grade, counselors are connecting with students to plan courses that not only align with graduation requirements, but that prepare them for whatever career that they might wish to pursue. We talk about pathways. We provide resources and information sessions for parents and students. During junior and senior year, we work together to help students plan the next steps, whether that's attending a 4-year college, a 2-year college, a tech school, going into the military, doing internships or apprenticeships, or if kids are going into meaningful work. And we know that as parents that you are very concerned about where your kids are headed after they leave high school, but we want you to know that we're keeping tabs on that and that we're working closely with them to help guide them for what they want to do. And during this pandemic, we want you to know that you can reach out to us anytime to talk about those things. We're currently holding junior conferences one-on-one with our students, and they are fascinating. Just hearing what our kids are talking about doing next, and we're helping to provide resources and next steps for those things. And we want to make sure that you as parents are always in the loop with that. Okay. Mr. Caffey is now going to talk about additional supports for our Spartans.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I just love being in front of a group like this, even in this funny way. But yeah, so some of the social emotional supports that we provide as school counselors, as well as we're still doing, individual student meetings and check-ins. We have a Calendly, I never say it right, but where students can go and sign up they can see our schedules and sign up for check-ins with us. And I mean, it's anything from our junior conferences to checking in on, mental health, whether they're having issues around bereavement or anything. So we're still doing that. And we love the cameras on, but even blank box, right? However we can get students, and if they'll talk to us, we'll talk to them, no matter where they want to meet us in terms of the Zoom. Summer as a mental health counselor, I spent almost 20 years down in the South Sound area. And so to have like a licensed mental health counselor on staff for free services is like the deal. So super awesome that we have that service here, and we could go on and on about summer for sure. Also, providing a lot of community and health resources. And it's amazing how it's just kind of blown up in terms of the lists of different services and referrals and resources that we're trying to provide for students. So we're definitely stacked up on that and provide that to our students in our email signatures, that kind of thing. Crisis response, we're a real tight-knit team. We're all on the text speed dial. We send one text, we all get it, right? So we're all connected, even kind of behind the scenes, in terms of making sure that if any crisis goes down, we all know about it like quick, and we're acting on it. So even though it feels disconnected, we're incredibly connected as well. Involved in the social emotional lessons as well. Mr. Phelan does a great job of picking our brains and helping us get involved. And we talked about doing some stuff in terms of like communication we're going to do later in the year, but getting involved with that is great. And then also just clubs, activities, social lunches. Social lunches went down today, and I know we pop in and out of that just so students can say, hey, yeah, counselors, we're here. Clubs, I attended the Indian club the other day, which was awesome. So I know we're popping in and doing that, and just kind of helping out with those activities. So yeah, we're still coming strong with the social emotional support out of your counseling Skyline team. So anyway, thank you.
All right, and as far as getting in contact with us, the quickest way is via email, and then we can always set up a meeting or phone call as need be too. So we've got our contact information here, but it's also in a bunch of other places. It's on the Skyline High School website, it's on our counseling page, and you probably already had emails from us already. So it should be pretty easy to get in touch with us, but it's really easy on the homepage as well.
Awesome.
All right, I'll pass it back to Keith.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Skyline Counseling Team. Great, great information. And I cannot say enough positive things about our entire counseling department. They do a phenomenal job building relationships with students and families. And really one of those first slides is, I think, really indicative of the work that they do in terms of that wraparound support that they're able to provide students, from the social and emotional support to the academic support of graduating, and then also that post-secondary support that they provide students. And again, we have a phenomenal counseling department down there, and I would strongly encourage students and families to go ahead and reach out to them with questions or concerns or anything, because they are so responsive and so willing to go the extra mile for our students. So great job, counselors.